A mysterious black hole accidentally appeared on a red-clawed chicken farm. This made the farm owner very curious and interested. He went to investigate the situation of this mysterious black hole, but when he reached down to feel it, those mysterious black dust particles stuck to his hand. This directly confused his mind and made him lose his usual calmness. Strange images kept appearing in his head. Royal was the name of this old man. Royal was the owner of a large farm that had been inherited for many generations. Every morning, Royal and his sons would go check on their farm once. Only when they confirmed that all the cattle were safe would Royal start a new day. But Royal's peaceful life did not last long. That evening, Royal heard that the horses in the stable seemed restless. So Royal went to check and calm them down. Royal discovered that countless birds were flying out from the forest in the distance. They seemed to be disturbed by something very mysterious. Early the next morning, when Royal and his eldest son Perry checked the number of cattle, they found that 2 were missing. Royal thought that there was a hole in the fence of the farm, so he and Perry went to check the situation. By chance, they met 3 men downstairs of the farm. They were the sons of the owner of the farm next door. Power and status were what the other 3 had from their powerful father, and perhaps their family had long set their sights on the Royal farm. So they always used the government to make things difficult for Royal. They wanted Royal to transfer this farm to them. This time, they gave Royal a legal document for illegal occupation of land. But Royal was no stranger to their tricks anymore. Royal told his children not to worry and to split up to find the loophole in the fence. Royal walked and observed the surroundings and quickly discovered that the western farm was a bit unusual. Then Royal rode over to see the situation, but when Royal saw the scene clearly in front of him, he fell silent. Before Royal's eyes was now a bottomless black hole, extremely mysterious and certainly containing many mysteries. With his memory, he realized that yesterday there was absolutely nothing on the grass. He tried throwing a rock, but there was no response at all. Moreover, there were a few small particles floating around. Royal curiously reached out to probe. Suddenly, Royal saw a scene of his wife calling him out to greet someone. Royal panicked and withdrew his hand. The scene immediately disappeared. The black shadow that had just appeared also disappeared. This could not be explained by common sense. Royal tried to force himself to calm down. Royal decided to go home and think of a way to handle it. Royal had not yet entered the house when he saw the police car outside. Royal curiously went into the house to ask and saw his wife standing outside the living room telling him to greet police inside. Royal was a bit panicked because this was exactly the scene he saw when he put his hand in the mysterious hole. The police brought bad news to Royal. Royal's daughter-in-law, who had been missing for 9 months, had not been heard from yet. The police decided to give up looking for her. Perry was heartbroken over this loss. He thought his wife would not leave on her own because they still had a charming and lovely 8-year-old child. Early the next morning, Royal went to the hole, but unfortunately, it was still in the same place. Now, if Royal did not find a solution, the herd of cows that his family raised would disappear. Then Royal tried the most primitive method, which was to fill the hole with soil. But this method was ineffective. Royal angrily threw things down. Suddenly, a large cow appeared. There were also 2 arrows stuck on its body. Something suddenly flashed in Royal's mind, causing him to immediately ride his horse to the edge of the farm. There was a girl camping there named Autumn. Yesterday, Autumn took the initiative to come here and pay Royal some money. Autumn wanted to camp outside the farm for a few days. Now there was a black hole here. Royal reminded Autumn not to wander around carelessly, but Autumn was also not allowed to shoot animals on the farm. Otherwise, she would have to leave. Autumn immediately agreed. It was unknown whether Autumn loved this endless wild nature or what the deeper reason was, but she said that if he gave her a reasonable price, she would buy this huge farm. Of course, Royal immediately refused that offer because this farm was built by his ancestors and left this priceless legacy until now. And one thing is for sure, the purpose of this girl coming here is not simply to light a fire and enjoy the wild air. When night fell, Autumn was in the tent drawing a strange symbol in her diary over and over again. Royal also felt something unusual. He was just about to go to sleep when he heard the sound of a car revving outside. He curiously went out and opened the garage to see. Surprisingly, his 2 sons were standing there in panic while there was a body in the car, and the cause of this was Perry. Perry knew that there was no hope of finding his wife, so he was upset and unhappy all day. Rhett saw that, so he immediately took Perry to the bar in town to drink. When the 2 of them were about to get drunk, Rhett went to get the car. Perry was at the door when he met the son of the rancher next door. The 2 families had long been at odds over the ranch. Perry didn't like the man who wanted to take over his ranch. After a while of arguing, Perry lost his temper and started fighting with the other guy. Perhaps because of the effects of alcohol, Perry went too far. When Rhett drove to the door of the bar, things were beyond saving. Rhett discovered that Perry had beaten the rancher's son to death. The 2 were in a state of confusion, not knowing what to do. They hurriedly carried the body into the car. They didn't know whether to go to the hospital or call the police. In the end, they decided to take the body home. When Royal found out about everything, he felt that this big matter needed to be covered up. Otherwise, Perry would definitely go to jail, and the ranch might not be able to be kept. Royal told the two to go and clean up the traces on their bodies and the car. He also told them not to tell anyone about this, not even their mother. Royal was going to destroy the body. Royal had already calculated in his mind how to destroy the body without leaving any trace. The most perfect way was to throw the body into the mysterious hole in the western farm. That way, no one would be able to find any clues. Suddenly, there was a thunderclap. On the way Royal was transporting the body fell from the horse. Royal could only drag the body towards the hole. When he crossed the fence, his shirt got caught on it. Royal did not waste any more time and threw the shirt away. After a while of struggling, he arrived in front of the hole with the body. Royal used all his strength to throw the body into the hole. Seeing the figure gradually disappear, he breathed a sigh of relief because he had eliminated the threat to his family. Suddenly, there was a frightening light behind him. Unexpectedly, that person was Autumn. Not only did she know about this hole before Royal, she also came here personally to study it. She said that this was a hole that the god of time used his sickle to cut, dividing the world into two parts, known and unknown. This was the greatest miracle in the world. After Autumn knew that only she and Royal knew about this hole, she showed a happy expression and pushed Royal down. The two remaining sons of the neighboring ranch owner, Tillerson, also came to Royal's house at this time, because they had discovered Trevor's blood-stained belt buckle in front of the tavern. So they asked someone and found out that Trevor had just had a conflict with Perry. So they came here to inquire about his whereabouts. Because there were no traces to find, they had to leave. But she and her two children were very worried that Royal had been gone for a long time and had not returned. The sun slowly crept over the hills. As the rays of sunlight began to shine, Royal returned. Royal appeared at the door with an expressionless face. When he walked, he was still limping. After putting on his clothes, he didn't mention anything about yesterday. Royal just told everyone to live as usual and do whatever they wanted. His wife Cecilia was very curious about who did the gunshot wound on his leg. In fact, Royal was also very suspicious of himself. Last night, after Royal was pushed into the hole by Autumn, when he woke up, he found himself in the farm. Even the horse that ran away was next to him. As for what happened during that time, he didn't dare to think about it because it was too strange. While Royal was thinking, his wife ran over and loudly said that the lawyer of the neighboring farm, Wayne, had just called and said that they wanted to take back part of the farm from the Royal family. Royal could no longer calm down after hearing this. Royal decided to go see Wayne. Wayne was a critically ill old man who needed a ventilator to keep him alive. But at this moment, his spirit did not seem agitated, and he was not sad about his son's disappearance. Wayne thought that he had just gone somewhere to play. Royal went straight to the point, saying that he could give up the East Farm. But Wayne insisted on only taking the West Farm. Royal was disappointed with Wayne's answer, because the strange hole was on Royal's West Farm. Could it be that Wayne knew something? Wayne continued to say that he was born with a fondness for magic items, and that Royal's West Farm had what he needed. Wayne's words made Royal even more certain of his guess. Royal said that he would absolutely not give up the West Farm. Royal announced to his family that he wanted to move all the cattle from the West Farm to the East Farm. Everyone was puzzled and protested loudly after hearing this, because the West Farm had just been expanded. Royal angrily banged on the table and shouted that there was a big hole there. Finally, the whole family started to herd the hundreds of cows from the West Farm to the east. Suddenly, a calf left the herd and headed straight for the big hole. Seeing this, Royal immediately rode his horse to chase the calf back before it got close to the hole. It could be seen that his decision was correct. Otherwise, who knows how many cows would have fallen into it. That night, Royal returned home, also wanting to find out if his ancestors had left any clues about the hole. Suddenly, Autumn appeared again. During the day, she accidentally saw another symbol on the cliff of the farm. It was exactly the same as the symbol of the book in the notebook. Autumn accidentally met Royal's niece Amy, who was out playing. Through Amy's story, Autumn learned that Royal had returned home early in the morning. Moreover, this strange symbol was the symbol of the Royal farm. This shocked Autumn so much that she went to Royal that night. She felt that there was some force that guided her here. Because Autumn had forgotten what happened when she was little, she could only remember a drawing that looked like the symbol of the farm. She felt certain that this place had some special existence. Autumn asked Royal what happened when he fell into the big lake last night. Royal thought that Autumn might really be able to discover the secret in the hole, so he slowly recounted his experience last night. He fell into the hole, and when he woke up, he still found himself on the farm. It was just that the surrounding environment had changed greatly. There were soldiers and armed equipment everywhere, along with a lot of resource mining equipment. The townspeople were all looking at Royal with puzzled eyes. Only his wife wife slowly approached and said that this farm no longer belonged to them. He had passed away 2 years ago. Then she whispered to run away. Then, the son of the Wayne family shot Royal in the leg. The guards also attacked him at the same time. Royal did not understand what was happening, so he jumped into the big lake again. This mysterious hole must have the ability to travel through time. The first time Royal came into contact with it, he saw what was about to happen in the future, and after falling in, he saw what happened 2 years later. At the scene of Trevor's murder, blood was found on the belt buckle. Through forensic examination, the police confirmed that the blood on it belonged to Royal's youngest son, Rhett. But he was also very calm. He insisted that he did nothing. Then he acted as if nothing had happened and ran off to participate in the town's bull riding competition. He ended up winning the championship beyond his expectations. After that, he even had dinner with the girl he liked. Their relationship also made great progress. When Rhett was drunk and went to the bathroom, he was caught red-handed by the police. He was taken to the police station. Taking this opportunity, the policewoman began to question Rhett about what he did the night of the incident. Just ask everyone at the bar, one by one, and you will definitely find clues. Rhett knew that he could not hide this anymore, so he could only admit that he and the victim had a conflict at that time, but he quickly left. At that time, there were many people in the bar who saw it, but the important thing that Rhett did not say was that Perry was still agitated and accidentally killed Trevor. Not long after, Royal came to the police station to pick Rhett up. On the way back, Royal told Rhett to keep the story of Perry killing Trevor a secret. Royal even did something terrible. Royal stole the bloody belt buckle from the police station. Then Royal quietly went to the pit and threw the only evidence into it. In his eyes, the pit before him was a bottomless abyss, and it could swallow all the crimes of his sinful family. But Royal did not know that this thought of his would have consequences later. Early the next morning, Royal found Autumn, who was still camping in the woods near the farm. He asked her why she wanted to push him into the pit. Her answer was very strange. She was just curious about what would happen. The truth proved that she was absolutely right. Otherwise, no one would know that Pit could let people see the future. Royal finally made a deal. Royal would not pursue Autumn's mistake anymore, but she had to keep the secret of the wormhole a secret until he could figure out its origin. He had to hide it from his own family. Then he saw a stone around her neck. She had picked it up in the mountains below the farm. As soon as he shook her hand, a magical scene appeared. As soon as he took his hand away, the mountain that had disappeared reappeared. Royal had experienced many strange things these past few days. He was getting more and more aware of the strange things around him, so he kept quiet and turned away as if he had never seen anything. But Royal had no idea how much trouble this would bring to himself and his family. The police station received a call from a few people. They said a mountain had suddenly disappeared. The police chief knew this was not someone's prank because she had just seen it. After being terrified, she suddenly received a phone call saying that someone had found a body at the foot of the mountain that had just disappeared. The caller was the owner of the Royal farm. A few minutes ago, Amy had been walking around the farm and accidentally found a body at the foot of the mountain. It was Wayne's son who had been thrown into a hole by Royal a few days ago. Royal knew that the needle in his pocket would eventually come out, so he chose to call the police. It might even clear his suspicions. Therefore, Royal led the sheriff and many of his subordinates to the scene. But everyone was very curious as to why the body showed no signs of decay. After that, the sheriff began questioning the Royal family. In her heart, she still thought that this family had the biggest suspicion about this matter. She knew Amy wouldn't lie. She told the adults to be quiet and asked Amy a few questions. Finally, from Amy's words, she learned an important clue. Rhett wasn't home the night Trevor went missing. Perry rushed over and explained that Amy had lied. Rhett was with a girl at the time. Perry didn't know who that girl was. Perry had no choice but to lie. It was better than saying he was busy packing a body in the garage. The sheriff asked Royal more questions about whether he had seen the mountain disappear and whether he had taken anything from the police station. But Royal was unfazed. He still said coldly that he didn't know and hadn't taken anything. The sheriff wasn't so easy to fool. She told her subordinates to immediately go find Rhett. She asked him where he had been the night of the murder. If Rhett's answer didn't match Perry's, then there was definitely a problem. Perry was also aware of this, so he kept calling Rhett at home. But at this time, Rhett left his phone in the car. After Rhett saw the call, he didn't answer it, but ran to the bank where his girlfriend worked to admire her beautiful face. At this moment, a policeman rushed to find Rhett and asked where he had been the night of the incident. Only then did Rhett react and realize that his brother was definitely looking for him because of this. Therefore, Rhett ignored the police's objection and ran to the side to answer the phone. After being informed by Perry, Rhett told the police that he was with a girl. The police asked who that girl was. Rhett was immediately stunned. Fortunately, his girlfriend reacted quickly and said that he was dating her at the time. This dispelled the police's suspicions. Although the storm had temporarily calmed down, Royal's family was still extremely extremely worried. They asked if the old man had gone crazy. At first, he said he would handle the corpse well, but in the end, he threw it down the mountain. Royal could not say anything about this because he did not understand. He had clearly thrown the corpse into the deep lake, but when the mountain disappeared for a while, it reappeared, taking the corpse with it. In order to keep his family from worrying and to prevent the secret of the deep lake from being exposed, Royal chose not to tell the truth. He even went to the foot of the mountain to see if he could find the belt buckle that had been thrown into the hole. Suddenly, he discovered some strange minerals. Royal thought of the stone Autumn wore around his neck. He suspected that the disappearance of the mountain and the sudden appearance of the deep lake were both related to these stones, but he had not yet investigated cause. The police chief investigating the case had made crucial progress. No one expected the sheriff to personally go to Rhett's girlfriend. She said that he might be involved in a murder case. If she intentionally provided evidence of absence for the suspect, it would be illegal. Moreover, this matter was easy to investigate because there were many people in the bar at that time. After a while of persuasion and warning, Rhett's girlfriend finally admitted that she had lied. So the sheriff quickly called Rhett and Perry to the police station. The police began to split up to interrogate, and it was certain that one of them was lying. The lie was exposed, and the two were very panicked, but their minds were still very strong, not admitting that they had murdered Trevor. Just when the two were about to collapse, Royal appeared and temporarily bailed them out. Everyone was in a bad mood. If the police continued to investigate, one day the matter would be exposed. But no one expected that after just one day, the suspicion of their family being framed would be cleared, because the autopsy report of the victim was out. The forensic doctor had never seen such a strange body. The cause of death was a fatal wound to the throat caused by air, but the wound on the label had no trace and no metal left. Obviously, this was something that humans could not do. What was even more bizarre was that the time the body was discovered was less than 8 hours after the time of the frame. Trevor had been missing from the pub for 5 days now. Although the royal family could not provide any alibi, they could not prove anything either, so they had overcome this calamity in a very inexplicable way. But this storm did not dissipate. After Wayne learned that his son had been in trouble, he began to let out a miserable roar. His divorced wife also did not hesitate to fly back to attend her son's funeral. The royal family, who were neighbors next door, could not help but attend the ceremony. When his wife asked Wayne why he kept targeting the royal family's small farm and refused to let go, he took out a strange stone that one of his workers had discovered on the western farm. The first time Wayne saw it, he immediately recalled his childhood experience. It turned out that he had encountered that mysterious black hole long ago. This stone made him love exploring mysterious things and considered it a treasure. He vowed that he would have the royal family's western farm at all costs. His wealthy wife also saw the value of this mineral. She said she would support him as much as possible. Royal did not know that another bigger danger was about to happen. At the moment, Royal only wanted to clarify the secret in this deep lake and accidentally discovered that Autumn liked to gamble, so he used the name of the fish to make a deal. If he won, she had to hand over the stone around her neck. The result was not surprising. Because he had prepared in advance, he used a trick to win the stone. Although he did not know its effect, his intuition told him that this stone was related to that magical hole. But he was not the only one who paid attention to this matter. Ever since Wayne got the magical stone, he had been so anxious that he could not sleep at night. In the end, Wayne could not help but drive himself into the royal's western farm. After a while of searching, he finally saw the black hole that had made him lose sleep from childhood to old age. Just when Wayne was so excited that he was about to cry, Royal suddenly appeared and grabbed him. Wayne pretended to faint to deceive Royal. Then, Wayne ambushed Royal from behind and knocked him down. He then drove away quickly. Before that, Wayne had hired dozens of surveyors in town to list a lot of historical data to prove that Royal was not the real owner of the West Farm. Wayne even invited a lawyer to hold a hearing at the end of the month. Although Royal was not convinced, when facing the law, he could only use violence to threaten. Royal believed that in the near future, he would have to face more brutal robbery. Back to reality, after Wayne knocked Royal down, he excitedly returned home. When he was a child, he had seen this mysterious pit when he was preparing to make a big move to take it. Suddenly, his whole body suddenly fell to the ground. The children hurriedly called an ambulance to take him to the hospital. Royal was knocked unconscious and woke up on the lawn. Royal knew that the secret of the black hole could no longer be hidden, and Wayne would come to fight for it at any moment. So before dawn, Royal had already left the farm in a hurry. Royal had to find a solution quickly, but it didn't take long for Royal's wife to discover the noise from upstairs. She went upstairs to check and found out that Autumn was secretly looking for something. It turned out that Autumn had lost before, and the stone fell into Royal's hands. Now Autumn felt regretful and wanted to secretly go get it back. Unfortunately, Autumn was discovered by by Royal's wife. Autumn seemed angry. Before Autumn left, she told Cecilia if Cecilia had noticed that Royal had been acting strange recently. In fact, Cecilia didn't understand her husband at all. But this time, Autumn had touched Cecilia's heart. She had asked him many times if something had happened to him. Unfortunately, from beginning to end, he still didn't say a word. Cecilia was also under a lot of pressure. Royal had gone to the famous local university a few days ago. He had stolen a geological doctor's card from the filming location. This time, Royal came here to greet the other party. After asking around, Royal learned that Wayne had once sent 10 doctors to survey the farm, so they knew each other. In fact, their relationship was not good. Royal was a little hesitant. Royal wanted to use Altum's mineral pendant to let the other party confirm what it was. The doctor examined it carefully and said that the outside of the pendant was covered in a layer of amber. To confirm the composition of the fossil, a laser spectrometer was needed. While talking, Royal happened to see a photo hanging on the wall with a very familiar triangle logo. That was actually the symbol he had seen when he fell into the black hole. His family's farm was seized by this company and forced to mine. Royal immediately demanded the chain back, and he determined that he absolutely could not let them discover the secret in the black hole. After that, Royal went to the library to find out that this logo belonged to a mining company. He tried to call to find out the situation. Unfortunately, no one answered. When he returned home, he did not say a word to his wife, but went straight to the office and decided to use external force to cut the mineral to explore. He placed the magic stone on the tool. He used a force to break the outer layer of amber. Unexpectedly, inside was a black powder. Royal curiously placed it on his hand. His hand immediately exploded with black spots. Then he saw a scene in the future. Royal did not know why he died in his wife's arms. Autumn was also by his side. Autumn seemed to be able to see Royal in the present. Autumn also called Royal's name. Then the future scene disappeared, and the black spot on his hand also disappeared. Royal was really scared. It was very strange that the future Autumn could see Royal's existence. So Royal immediately drove to the farm and quickly found Autumn standing next to the deep lake. Autumn immediately asked for the mineral necklace back. Royal said he wanted to take Autumn back to the campsite. The two sat in the car without saying a word. The car quickly arrived at the campsite, but Royal was now driving at high speed deep into the forest. Autumn realized that the situation was not good, so she loudly asked Royal where he wanted to go, but he pretended not to hear, and he had no intention of stopping. She gathered all her courage and jumped out of the car. Her legs were too weak to stand up. At this time, Royal also stopped car and told Autumn the pendant had been crushed and there was nothing special inside. But Autumn didn't believe it. She had discovered quite a few similar stones around here. She felt that they had some connection to the black hole, and all had the ability to manipulate time. In fact, Royal was also aware of this. It was just that he was exposed by her secret, which immediately drove him crazy. He loudly warned her not to continue participating in the secret of the black hole. Especially Autumn. Don't tell Royal's family. But Autumn was extremely resilient. She thought this was the greatest discovery of the century. Why wasn't she widely announced? Obviously, Royal lost his patience. Royal didn't care about Autumn being alone. He drove away. He left her alone in the dark forest with wounds all over her body. It was almost impossible for her to get out of here. Royal went to Autumn's campsite and poured gasoline on her tent to burn everything, including her notes and documents. His purpose was to erase all traces of her. No wonder Royal's tenacity surpassed Autumn's imagination. Autumn leaned on a tree branch all night when suddenly there was a loud roar. A huge brown bear appeared. She trembled on the ground. Her whole body curled up and saw the bear approaching. Autumn felt like she was about to die, but the bear had no intention of attacking Autumn. Its eyes seemed to be able to talk. Its sparkling eyes looked at her frightened face, and then it turned and left. Autumn kept her life. She felt that this was a hint, so she was even more determined to make the black hole story public. At this time, Wayne also returned from the hospital. Right now, he couldn't eat or move. He lay in bed like a vegetable. Wayne's son, Billy, really didn't understand what this stone did to make his father so crazy. Wayne's eldest son, Luke, was much more practical. Luke discussed with his mother how to inherit his father's property. As for how to rob the royal family's West Ranch, Luke was completely uninterested. His mother reminded Luke that the West Ranch might contain something important, but Luke firmly believed that Wayne was senile. The conversation between the two was interrupted by a phone call. Unexpectedly, the caller was a lawyer. It turned out that Wayne had left part of his will draft with his lawyer. Wayne had clearly stated that all the inheritance and company shares were left to Billy. However, Wayne had suffered a stroke and had not yet made an official will. This news greatly disappointed Luke. His mother comforted him that this discussion had no legal effect. As long as they kept this secret, it would be fine. At this time, Billy disguised himself as a soldier and planned to hunt a deer in the woods as a gift for his father. Just as Billy was preparing to shoot, a figure suddenly appeared. Billy realized that Autumn Autumn was struggling. They had just met when Autumn said she wanted to take Billy to see something. The two of them, one in charge and one behind, quickly left the forest. They soon reached the black hole. Billy was speechless with surprise. It seemed that the existence of the black hole was no longer a secret. Billy finally understood his father's suffering. Billy knew why he was so stubborn about the Western Ranch. At this time, Autumn returned to the campsite but saw that the tent had been burned to the ground along with the documents. Even her daily necessities were gone. But she was not discouraged. She believed that revealing the secret of the black hole was a mission given to her by God. To express her determination, she even carved the symbol of the Western Ranch on her body. But the first thing she had to do was deal with Royal, because he always wanted to hide the secret of the black hole. Autumn asked Perry to tell him about what happened last night when Royal left her in the woods. This was a disguised murder. Moreover, Autumn saw Royal throw Trevor into the deep hole with her own eyes. Autumn decided to tell the sheriff everything. At the same time, Autumn had to let Perry see his father's criminal face. At this time, Perry seemed confused, so he quickly assured Autumn that he would handle this matter well, so she absolutely should not report it to the police. Autumn also did not expect that person who killed Trevor was actually Perry. After Autumn left, Perry took a letter and went to the police station. At the same time, Autumn went to Billy and told him that the black hole could predict the future. Everything that was happening here was following a default form. Everything was preset. At this time, the royal family was preparing to have dinner. Perry returned home. It turned out that he went to the police station and told him the whole process of how he punched Trevor. But he said he did it when his father and brother disposed of the body. He didn't want his family to be implicated. Rhett immediately got angry and said they did so many things just to protect him. As a result, because of his own actions, the whole family's efforts were ruined. He never expected Rhett to be so angry. During the day, he mustered up all his courage to go find the goddess in his heart to apologize, hoping that their relationship would be restored to its original state. But his girlfriend was still troubled by the fact that he and his brother were involved in a case of harming someone else. She wanted her boyfriend to be honest with her. Rhett thought for a long time about how to cover up his brother's crime. In the end, even if he lost the relationship he longed for, he wouldn't admit it. Seeing his attitude like this, his girlfriend could only helplessly step back to see him more clearly. It could be said that Rhett had sacrificed a lot for his brother. Even his father stood by him. Perry was isolated and almost collapsed. He held a knife and shouted that he did it for everyone. Even if Perry did not turn himself in, Autumn would go to the police. At this time, Royal got angry and told his children to stay away from her. Why didn't they listen? While pushing, he accidentally pushed the glass door down and hit his niece next to him. Amy immediately bled. She really didn't understand why people from the same family could be torn apart like this because of each other's problems. The girl cried and ran outside. At this moment, she saw a police car coming from afar. But perhaps Royal couldn't see his son going to jail, so he used most of the family's assets to bail Perry out. At the same time, Royal mortgaged his farm. Royal promised to attend the trial on time to clear the charges for him. The reason they did this was to reunite Perry with his daughter before he was convicted. At the same time, they tried to think of a way to clear his name. But they all knew that it was too difficult to avoid going to jail, because Wayne had wanted to take over their farm for a long time. So Wayne would absolutely not let this opportunity go, although Wayne was now paralyzed and unable to manage the household. After Billy accidentally learned about the black hole, he asked Autumn to share this secret with Luke. The first time Luke saw the black hole, he also showed a very confused and shocked expression. In Luke's eyes was a deep and hard-to-hide darkness. But if it came to someone who understood the value of the black hole, no one else but Billy. So Billy went to Autumn again and proposed to cooperate in exploring the mysterious black hole. The reason was very simple. He dared to smash the mineral his father picked up near the black hole. The black powder inside was exactly the same as what Royal got from Autumn's pendant before. At that time, he only had a little bit of it and could see the future. But Billy was crazier. He had absorbed the black powder into his stomach so he could see the future more clearly. He said with absolute certainty that Royal would enrich many black holes and become in existence on par with the leader of the Earth. What he had to do now was to hold on to this support. Autumn seemed to have anticipated that this day would come, so she reminded Billy to help her kill the biggest obstacle. At that moment, it was also the owner of the guy where the black hole appeared. Billy agreed without thinking. On the way back, Royal's car suddenly turned off. Just then, Billy drove by and took the initiative to drive Royal for a while. Royal was completely unprepared and accepted the kindness. Royal was brought to an abandoned amusement park. Billy used a gun to force Royal to kneel down. Billy scolded Royal for not being able to distinguish the situation. Royal felt his life was in danger, so he could only shout loudly, "I was wrong." Royal swore that he would never hurt Autumn again. Billy really spared Royal's life. Royal watched Billy leave, but he did not not feel happy. Because he had lived to this age, he had to endure humiliation. Autumn's plan was not just that. Autumn went to find Perry alone and said she had a shocking secret to reveal to him. She did not say what the secret was. Royal had just returned home and wanted to tell Perry a secret. Royal brought Perry to the black hole. Perry was unusually calm. Royal began to tell about his past. When he was young, Royal went hunting with his father in the forest. Royal did not hit an animal, but accidentally shot his father, causing him to faint on the spot. Although Royal was not very old at that time, he was still aware that he had caused a big disaster. Royal did not dare to go home to face his mother. Royal could only choose to secretly escape, but then an extremely miraculous scene happened. A huge black hole suddenly appeared in the meadow in front of him. Royal jumped in without hesitation. Then Royal crawled out of the black hole. At this time, there was another boy standing outside. That boy was Wayne when he was young. Wayne was extremely frightened when he saw this scene. What was even more confusing was that the time Royal jumped into the black hole was 1886, but when he crawled out, it was already 1968. This could not be explained by science, so Royal chose to hide it. After hearing this, although he was very surprised, Perry did not have any ripples in his heart. Perry said that Royal had known the secret that black holes could manipulate time for a long time. Moreover, Perry's wife did not really leave. Then Perry jumped into the black hole without hesitation. Then, the dark clouds that had gathered around this huge hole completely disappeared in front of Royal. Autumn stood not far away, calmly observing this scene as if everything was within her expectations. But Royal knew clearly that Perry had been deceived by Autumn, so he jumped in. Royal secretly decided in his heart that he had to get rid of Autumn no matter what. At this moment, Royal no longer cared about his promise to Billy. Royal took a gun and drove to the motel where Autumn was staying, but he couldn't find her. Turned out that she had expected this to happen, so she told Billy to come pick her up. This time, Royal also realized that Autumn was indeed a girl who was not easy to deal with. Even his wife felt that her mentality was starting to be deceitful when the storm was about to hit this family, because they couldn't contact Perry for a long time. If Perry were absent from the trial, the mortgage on their farm would be forfeited. Moreover, Rhett was going to compete in the finals of the bull riding competition tonight. However, Royal was no longer in the mood to care about Rhett's business. Royal did not want to watch Rhett compete. Royal was determined to kill Autumn at the risk of his life. Then Royal went to find Rhett to tell him about the secret of the black hole that buried many evil spirits from the island. But Rhett was really confused and upset because today was the most important competition of his career. But perhaps his father did not care about him. His father only talked about the farm. Rhett was very angry and said he did not want to hear anything about the farm. Royal felt Rhett's anger, so he choked up and did not say anything more. Royal could only turn back to the audience to silently cheer Rhett on. But before Royal could sit down, he received a call from Autumn. She said she was on her way to town. If he wanted to kill her, he would come here immediately. Royal knew that this was probably Autumn's trap, but he still left the arena regardless. Rhett was about to go out. When he saw his father was absent, his heart was extremely cold. Even during the competition, he could not fully demonstrate his abilities. His score fell to near the bottom of the table. Luckily, there was still one more match for him to have a chance to make up for his score. Rhett tried to endure the pain in his body and rode the bull again. But when he looked at the audience seats, he discovered that even his mother and niece had disappeared. But he did not know that a few minutes ago, his niece was about to step down from the seats to comfort him. But she met her mother, who had been missing for 2 years. And it seemed that the mother was also extremely panicked, and her state was not normal. She was running away from something scary. She hurriedly took her daughter and left the arena. Royal's wife discovered that Amy had not returned, so she hurriedly went to look for her, but she still did not see Amy's figure. She was about to collapse. She thought that God had abandoned her. Rhett was about to go to the field without knowing anything and thought that his whole family had abandoned his competition and did not care about him. This stimulated the fighting spirit in his veins. During the competition, he displayed his ability more than usual and excellently brought out all his best qualities and won the championship. Rhett was not agitated or emotional about not having relatives to cheer him on. On the contrary, he made a very important decision, which was to escape from this family and run away with the person he loved. The royal family was about to fall into separation. Luke came to Wayne's bed and suddenly used a pillow to end his life. Fortunately, Billy appeared in time and stopped Luke's crazy actions. Luke couldn't help but explain. Luke had to quickly take control of the family to make it easier to rob the royal farm. Although he didn't know the true value of the black hole, his intuition told Luke that it was definitely worth a lot of money. Billy immediately threw a bucket of cold water on Luke, saying that the black hole had disappeared. Luke firmly believed that the black hole was just buried in mud, so Luke went to the farm and disguised himself as a hard-working worker. Then Then Luke started digging holes all over the farm, not knowing how much his unconscious actions had affected the world. On the other side, the police received a report from the people. They said that strange animals often appeared on their farm, so the sheriff immediately went to check. There she accidentally discovered a thin line of black powder scattered throughout the forest. Following the trail, the surrounding forest became denser and denser. Everything seemed to be transporting her to another space. She suddenly saw a terrifying scene in front of her. A herd of cows were running in the middle of the wild forest, so she continued to go up the mountain path. Then she discovered that in the distance, the endless plains suddenly had many thatched huts built by primitive people. At this moment, her emotions were in turmoil. Her state of excitement was indescribable, as if she had just discovered a new continent in this wild forest. The scene changed back to Luke. It was already pitch black, but after a day of digging, his hard work was finally worth it. At the bottom of the sealed lake, black slime had indeed begun to appear. Luke realized that this was the precious mineral he wanted, but the joy had not lasted for 5 seconds when he also felt something strange. The slime appeared more and more. Finally, an endless herd of wild cows appeared. At this time, right at the meeting point, Royal had arrived and saw Autumn standing in the middle of the main road. He was about to get out of the car when he glanced at the rearview mirror and discovered Billy was ambushing behind. Royal immediately got in the car to avoid the bullets. After a while of chasing, Royal killed Billy. Then Autumn and Royal's car overturned together on the side of the road. When Royal slowly approached, he saw that Billy was dead. Autumn was seriously injured. Just as he was about to shoot to end this disaster, he suddenly felt the ground begin to move. Royal looked up and saw countless wild cows charging towards him. He turned around and quickly hid in a nearby overturned car. After a while, it was quiet again. Royal safely escaped from the herd. He slowly stood up and saw a wild cow with an arrow stuck in its body that had not yet moved. Royal had seen it many times in the running field, so he approached and pulled out the arrow on its body. Then Royal discovered Autumn, who was unconscious not far away, and perhaps she was still alive because the wild cow protected her so she was not trampled. Royal slowly approached Autumn. He did not know if she was dead or not. Suddenly, he discovered a scar on her forehead. He immediately remembered Amy. Amy was also injured in this position. Royal realized something at this moment. Perhaps the girl named Autumn was his niece Amy when she grew up. Autumn once said that she no longer remembered what happened when she was young. Moreover, Royal had also experienced this time travel incident, so he quickly accepted the cruel reality that happened to his family. He immediately carried her home. His wife, with a bewildered face, prepared a sumptuous meal for the family that evening, but the only relative who could return to eat that meal with her was Royal. She felt like the last straw had broken the camel's back. The broken pieces in her heart were even more. She immediately overturned the entire dining table. Royal looked at his wife, bewildered, angry at the things that had fallen from the sky to this family. This part ends here. Thank you everyone for supporting me in the past. Goodbye, and see you again.